I've been so nervous about this all day.
We're live. Don't be nervous. Don't be nervous. We are live. Shivankar, thank you so much for being here with us today. Welcome, everyone, to ConnectImpact Hub, where we're hosting another amazing event with a wonderful guest speaker, Shivankar, all the way from India. We're super stoked, Shivankar. Woo! Just.
Freestyle like you.
Yeah. So we're going to go ahead and just jump right in. Really quickly, who is ConnectImpact Hub? We are a nonprofit organization. Our home base is out of Texas. We're now helping here in the state of California, but also we do assist on a national level. And we are also collaborating on an international level. So we're so excited about what we're going to be learning today with Shivankar, but also the knowledge we're going to all gain, as well as seeing through the lenses of Shivankar. As you all know, I consistently share through my personal profile on LinkedIn about what I experience on a daily basis when it comes to advocacy, but also what we see outside when we step out of our homes. So our mission at ConnectImpact Hub is to end homelessness. And how do we do that? By working together. So Shivankar, I really want to thank you so much for being part of what we're doing here. You've seen us from the beginning to where we're at today. Mm-hmm. So we want to thank you so much for being so supportive of the work that we do.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm so excited about this. And we've been friends for a while now on LinkedIn, and it's been amazing to see you kind of be really in the trenches with homelessness and helping out the population. It's been exciting to see you.
Thank you, Shivankar. Thank you so much. Now, I am just going to go to our chat here. If anyone has any comments or any questions for us, please do let us know in the comments, and then we'll be replying to those. And yes, Shivankar, we've been friends probably since I started LinkedIn. We connected immediately. Your aura is so warm and open, and I just attracted. I was just attracted to you. But how we connected, most importantly, what really stood out to me is one day I was trying to explain something, and I was having a really hard time, and Shivankar was able to jump right in the conversation and explained it so nicely. And I was like, oh my gosh, you just did a phenomenal job. Just you came out of nowhere. It was like Superman came to save me because I was struggling trying to get the words out. And he absolutely came in and just nailed it. And I was like, thank you so much, Shivankar, for doing that. Appreciate it as always.
Yeah, no problem. I love, because we mostly met through LinkedIn events, and there have been such a variety of events throughout my LinkedIn journey. And you're one of the people who not only talks the talk, but walks the walk with the work you do. And I'm not sure what event it was that I helped you out in, but it's been consistent that you're someone who really wants to practically be out there and practically make a difference. So whenever you did put in some input on any of the events, I was always listening, and I was more receptive towards what you're saying, because it's okay, this is a person who's actually making a difference and knows what she's talking about. So it's always been a pleasure whenever we've been in an event together.
Thank you, Shivankar. I appreciate you so much. So Shivankar, please share a little bit about yourself so all of our friends that are listening, or maybe Team Replay, who don't know you, please share a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So like Martha said, my name is Shivankar. My last name is Rawat. very Indian name. I get a lot of people who try to pronounce it, don't always get it right, but I always help them out. It's not a big deal. I don't get offended by it. And I am currently a freelance artist. So I'm really exploring kind of my taste in art, my taste in kind of my outlook of the world. I also work with children. I'm a freelance tutor on the side. I've tutored for a company professionally as well, but kind of wanted to break away, do my own thing. So I had my own group of kids that I tutor English and mathematics to, and they ranged from like not only in India but Australia, the UK, the United States. I've also worked as an search engine optimization writer and editor in the past. Worked about a year doing that, but it wasn't really for me, so I branched out from that. And apart from that, before that, I have a degree in English from one of the institutes here in India, but my upbringing has been kind of multicultural. I've grown up and went to school in San Francisco, in Delhi, in India, of course, in Istanbul, and most recently, my high schooling was in Maryland. I've told you about that, Martha, before. So it's been a really unique kind of upbringing, and I've seen a lot of cultures, talked to a lot of, well, had a lot of friends from a lot of different countries, still do, and yeah, just have a really, I would say, unique upbringing compared to most people. But like I've been very blessed. I've seen a lot of cultures and a lot of cities, a lot of people living different ways of life, and yeah, I guess that's pretty much shaped who I am today.
Thank you so much, Shivankar, for sharing a little bit about you so we can all get to know you a little bit better in the work that you do. And then also, and who would you want to connect with if anyone is listening? Is there anyone that you're looking to connect with and that may be listening?
Who would I want to connect with?
Yes.
Oh, I would love to connect with. Well, I'm really trying to connect with more people who are kind of like yourself, who are actually doing something impactful in society. I feel like one of my, personally, I think one of my good skills is communication. So like I want to use that skill in however way that I could impact society in a more positive way, whether it comes to helping out people who are impoverished, whether it comes to animal welfare, activities, or whether it comes to something in nature. I'm big on like these three fields. I'm huge on, and like on the side, I also personally like aesthetics and fashion and art, of course. So yeah, I just it's not so much as the field as to being connected with the right people who are actually, not just advertising what they want to do, but are actually on the field and doing something. So anybody out there who is, actually trying to make a difference, however big, I would love to connect with them.
Thank you, Shivankar, so much. Now, I know you mentioned something. Yeah, I know you mentioned nature, and you posted something that was happening in your area regarding young people protesting because they were going to be building and they wanted to keep it as natural as it is. And could you touch a little bit base on that? Like if you're able to share a little bit for us, because, we need nature. And when buildings are being created, we're not only destroying the home for our animals, but we also have members that live outside. But we're taking that space away as well.
Yeah. So this was kind of a recent occurrence here in the south part of India. So one of the states in the south part of India, they were clearing out a lot of forest land to be used as kind of a new industrial complex. and the land that they chose was so heavily populated with flora and fauna. Most importantly, like the Indian peacock and a lot of our native animals that we have here. Not to mention like all of the trees and plants that they were going to destroy. So they had started to bulldoze this land, and it just caused a huge upsurge within the community of kind of why are you doing this? We don't. India as a whole doesn't really need another industrial complex, and even if we do, I'm sure like society was sure that like you could find a different area to do this instead of taking away the limited nature that we already have and replacing that with more pollution gathering systems. So the video I posted was like in the video it was a famous video at the time. It went viral that like it was the outcries of our national bird, actually the peacock, and you could hear it crying, like a horde of them crying because the forest land was being destroyed by bulldozers and such. And it was really significant just that hearing that peacock crying out, because it really, I think, imprinted in the people who saw that video that like this is actually affecting nature as in real time. And it touched the heartstrings of a lot of people, and including me. That's why I shared it. So thankfully that has stopped, and the protests were successful. And I believe the state government of there is looking to not utilize that land. They're gonna find someplace else. But it was like, it's because of the huge uproar of people all over the internet and the local people of there, that state, that like we really prevented this. Because personally, I think we already have a lot of trained professionals and a lot of so-called smart people already, but we're in a decline as far as environment goes. So the more important thing is to conserve what we have and to spread nature even more, instead of needing another tech park. So thankfully that was successful, and like that whole operation has stopped.
That's amazing. So the voices of those young people that were out there protesting were heard. That's powerful, Shivankar. Yeah, that's super powerful. Thank you so much for sharing that. I do want to welcome a couple of our friends that are here in the audience. Jane is here. She said Theodore and I are in the house. Welcome, Jane. Crystal is here too. Hi, hey guys. And then Crystal also mentioned that comments are not appearing in YouTube. So I was trying to figure that out. So I'll have to figure that out as I go. But thank you, Crystal, for letting me know. I appreciate you.
It's so nice to see. I haven't seen Crystal. I'm sorry, I haven't seen Crystal in such a while. And I've seen Jane around, but I don't think we've directly communicated. And I believe Theodore is her Frenchie, her French bulldog.
Yep.
So as a pug owner, like I resonate. So I'm so glad to see them.
Maybe you'll have to connect a coffee chat or something and have them all meet.
Yeah, definitely.
So Shivankar, please share a little bit about what you're seeing in your community when what you're coming across, or like when you're stepping out of the house. We're here to learn from you today. So.
Okay. So I actually kind of divided this, what I wanted to say, into a few sections. So so I'm gonna give my own personal perspective, what I've seen, mixed in with some facts that I gathered from the internet and through my studies and stuff. and so hopefully give you guys like a more complete look into what poverty looks like in India. Um, so, uh, so just to begin, um, I think I have a very unique perspective because, like I said, all those times that I went abroad, went to Turkey or went to the USA, and then came back to India, every time I could see change, like, and it was more apparent for someone like me who's going out and then coming back in. And every time I would just see India growing. The city that I live in, it's a little outside of the capital, but like every time I would see just India becoming more and more modern, more and more infrastructure was being built, more and more programs were being, placed out to help the poor. So it's been a really unique look at just the growth of a country, really. So with that being said, I wanted to dive into like uh, what what the UN actually defines poverty as.
I have a
So
quick question, Shivankar, before you jump in. Because
yeah.
you've traveled outside the country and then you came back, have you seen a lot of members on the streets, or do you see less? Like, what is your perspective on that? Like, because you've been here in the States and then you went back, like what are you seeing
Yeah.
there?
So that's actually interesting because like this is one of the questions I was kind of anticipating. So I would say like each time I wouldn't necessarily see less people because poverty, like the population of India is so vast that like even if those numbers are improving, you're still gonna it's still gonna be a while before you see it eradicated or like see any like you don't know if those are the same people who are living in the streets each time, but like there's still gonna be people replacing those people because it's such a widespread problem and
Yeah.
the population is so vast. The infrastructure, as far as highways, buildings, apartment buildings, all of that went up. Metros, everything. Like the city of Delhi pretty much grew out of its box and kept spreading as far as where I live. Um, but unfortunately, of course, like every time, even today, like there are people still living on the streets. There are still things, but I don't doubt that that those aren't necessarily the same people that I saw from 10 years ago or the same families from 10 years ago. But it's just that that number of the poverty of poor people is so vast that like it's gonna take a longer timeline to like actually see uh,
Progress.
it
Yeah.
eradicated completely.
Mhm.
But that doesn't mean these programs aren't working or that there isn't growth. It's just it's
Yeah.
going to be a while before you see it completely gone.
Right. Okay. Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that.
Yeah, no
Um,
problem.
yeah. So go ahead, Shivankar. I know you have something there, and I can't wait to
Yeah,
hear.
it's just my little my notebook with my notes for today. So first of all, just to clarify, so they define poverty as anybody who's living on less than $3.6 a day, which is very little anyway. But this is I think a universal definition. Um, so interestingly enough, currently India is the most populous country in the world. We have 1.4 billion people, which I think is almost more than 4 times the population of the United States. And we have about a third of the United States' land as far as land area goes. So it's a lot of people concentrated in a smaller amount of land. So that alone sets aside like as far as resource distribution and resource availability, we're kind of on a tighter rope compared to like a larger country. Um, but that being said, currently India has 28% of India's population is living below that poverty line. So almost more than 1 in 4 people are living below $3.6 a day, which is crazy to me. Because if you think about that, it's very hard to survive with just earning, you know, over $3 a day. There's not much leeway to what you can do. But here's an interesting thing, is that during, okay, let me go back in my notes here.
I have a quick question for you, Shivankar. What is the average daily earnings to be able to live there?
I would say,
Yeah.
no, there's not a set figure.
Yeah.
But I
I
would
guess it
say
depends
that,
where you live too.
yeah, to be like kind of somewhat breathing easier, I'd say you'd probably have to make about $200 a month, at least,
Wow. Yeah.
just to be, somewhat in the race to, practically have improvements in your life. Because if you're earning somewhere like, like $50 or $60, in what would be converted in here, like you might not be in the so-called poverty line or whatever it is, but like your whole focus is still gonna be just trying to get food for your family, trying to attack the basic needs, and like there's not much room for like growth, whether it's academically, whether it's chasing a job or whatever, because your primary focus is really you're in survival mode basically. And that's probably true for anywhere. Like when you don't have money, then like it's very hard to like kind of take jumps, right?
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. $3.6 per day compared to 200.
Yeah.
I mean, what can you buy with, oh my goodness. That's a lot. I mean, that's barely that's like you can't really do anything with 3.6.
No, it's
Yeah.
very hard to do. It's
Wow.
and especially like if you have a family, like that's even harder because
Yeah.
And I was saying this the other day, like India isn't the most forgiving as far as weather conditions go too. We get
Yeah.
very cold and get extremely hot. So just I barely function even with an air conditioner. I can't imagine somebody on the street, you know, being in 110-degree weather and still trying to focus on like getting food for their family or getting work or getting a job or whatever it is. So it's like the odds are very much against you over here.
Yeah. So there's no such thing there as cooling centers?
Not that I've seen, no.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Cooling centers are shopping malls over here. So you just go in. Yeah.
We do have a comment. I do want to welcome Sister Margaret, who's in the building. Welcome. Great to see you.
Hello, Margaret.
And we also have a question from Jane. She wants to know if you see a lot of subcontractors being exploited for unfair wages.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. Because we don't really have a minimum wage standard like the U.S. does. So everything is subjective. So you might, I see this often, like somebody hires someone for work and they know that they're, like you can tell that the person they hired is somewhat not as financially stable. So the ball's kind of in, they kind of have leverage onto like what they want to charge, because they know that that person's probably going to accept that work and do it for a much cheaper rate because they have to. So like, yeah, I see that a lot. And I see like the same amount of work being, subject to different prices depending on area, depending on who's doing it, depending on who's hiring you. So yeah, I definitely see a lot of imbalance, I would say, as far as employment and like contracts go.
Thank you, Jane, for that question. Wow.
Yeah.
Shivankar, so I know you mentioned families, and I know I've seen videos on social media of children with their parents, their grandparents living outside. When the weather is bad, from your view, what do you see? Do you see them just outside? Is anyone offering any shelter, or is just they're just outside? There's no tents. I didn't see any tents, by the way, in these videos. I only see beds. I actually see beds where they sleep, and then they're put away.
Yeah.
So during the day, they're just standing, they're walking around, they're not in that particular location. So I don't know if you have any insights on that.
I mean, from a wider perspective, no, nobody really like shelters in people. Nobody, because like when you see such a vast problem, you kind of just go with it. If it was like one or two persons and everyone has a house, and you're seeing like 5 or 6 people on the street, people would jump to rush to their aid. But like when it's like, you know, thousands or millions of people, then it's like, you know, the people kind of have like the attitude of this is just the way it is. And like people, yeah, I don't really see that necessarily, that like people just out of their goodwill are sheltering people or doing anything, because I don't know, in the psyche, like it seems like just a big problem to tackle on your own, and like you might make one drop in an ocean, but like people don't really even do that. So practically, no, Martha, I don't really see that.
Oh, okay. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
But that's good to know.
I will say this. There are several. I do see a lot of free food drives. Honestly, almost. I would say almost once every month. Not only because of religious reasons, like it might be a religious day in the Hindu or Muslim calendar, or it's just something communal. But there will be, I see this constantly, that people are just giving out free foods. They'll, the middle class or whatever, will set up tables, and it's just a free food drive to anybody who wants to come in and get some. And our temples, our Hindu temples and our Sikh temples actually give out free food every day. Yeah. So this is kind of on a societal side what we try to do to combat this. And usually all of that food is very nutritious in nature. Like it's very, the little amount of food is very high in calories, because that's what will sustain anybody who comes in to eat it. And it doesn't matter what faith you're from. You can come in, you can you can, if you want, do your devotions and stuff. But regardless of that, you can still get your free meal for the day.
That's wonderful. Now, is there public restrooms, like for?
Yeah.
Or
yeah, and there's
been
an upspike in those public restrooms in the last, I'd say, 10, 15 years. So like I'm seeing a lot more public restrooms, a lot more government programs actually to kind of combat this poverty. And interestingly enough, like it's not, the numbers actually reflect that we are doing something right. So this is what I was gonna get to before, but
okay.
So that number, the $3.65 a day that I talked about. So from 2012 to 2023, in about a 10-year period, according to the World Bank, our poverty rate has declined from 61% to 28%. which is a massive
Wow.
amount. Yeah. And what the World Bank terms as extreme poverty, which is an even lower figure, it's $1.9 a day. That fell from 16% to 2%. So India is doing something right in our
Yes.
government policies, whether or not it can be socially seen, but whether it's these religious institutes, whether it's the government institutes, we are trying to make a framework to help to kind of combat this figure. So that just astounded me, like 61% to 28%. That's a huge drop in just 10 years.
It definitely is.
Yeah.
It definitely is. I about what the government is doing.
Yeah.
Wow.
So as far as the government, like we said, it has several programs. So, for example, as far as food is concerned, we have these things called fair price shops, where based on like your citizen identity card that we have here, it's called an Aadhaar card, and based on your income, you have access to these shops that give goods at a much lower rate than would be, available in the normal markets. So, for example, rice. Rice in these shops is given at not 2 cents, but 0.02 cents in your currency for about 2.2 pounds of rice.
2 pennies.
Less than 2 pennies, like 0.02 pennies.
Oh, so it's free.
Yeah, almost free.
Yeah.
The same goes with wheat. It's the same thing, 0.02 cents for 2.2 pounds. Sugar is 30 cents for almost 2 pounds. And whoever has like this little card that's indicating that they are from an impoverished family, they can get to up to, I believe it's about 100 pounds in these things at that rate for rice, sugar, wheat, and a few more things. I also heard like spices and kerosene oil. So I think that's really smart by the government that they, as opposed to the American system where you're given food stamps and then a lot of people end up buying stuff that's not necessarily what they need. The government over here has really reduced the price on stuff that lasts. So rice, sugar, wheat, like if you have a bag of rice, like it lasts for a while. If you have a bag of wheat, it lasts for a while, the things you can make with it. And the same with sugar. So it's been really smart in trying to give out stuff that like could last you and your family and like go a long way. And as far as children go, in our government schools, which are free, the midday school lunch is also free. So this is not, and it's highly nutritious. So this is not only to like make the kids that are going to these schools like stronger, but it's also to encourage parents to send their kids to school and for them to receive an education. So it's kind of a longer vision, because like that's really what's gonna get them out of their status and maybe get them a better job than like, what they were what they would have without an education. And there's a lot of things. Also during COVID, the government over here was very conscious about helping out the poor during the COVID years, because they knew that like if that domino falls, that it's going to be a trench that they can't get out of. So they were very conscious of like trying to help those lower income people keep and secure their jobs and keep and secure whatever food resources they had, so that they wouldn't go into kind of a hole that they couldn't dig out of because of COVID.
Yeah. So I do have another question for you.
Sure.
So The children, are they only receiving school lunches or are they also getting breakfast? Do you know?
Uh, I think it's only school lunch. Like breakfast isn't really a thing here,
Oh,
as far as
oh,
in
okay. Good to
as
know.
far as in school goes. As far as
Yeah.
in school goes, I don't think like breakfast is really a concept. Even when I was in school here, like we only had like one meal a day during lunch. Uh, but no, like that would be a huge plus as well if they offered breakfast
Yeah.
as well. I'm sure it would not only like we said, like make the kids even more healthier, but like improve the kids early in the morning that like I gotta get to school and
Hmm.
improve that whole percentage of how many people are being educated.
Yeah.
Um,
So,
yeah, no, that's a
Shivankar,
great.
yeah, thank you. So I wonder how they determine who is who would be able to get that card. How do they verify documents? Because I know here in the States, when you go and apply for your food stamps, they verify
Mhm.
your income. Now, if you're homeless, you specify that you're homeless. If you don't,
Mhm.
you have to, there's no way to prove that, but if you say you are homeless, then those benefits are become available to you. Um, but if you're not homeless and you are receiving an income, it does the timing for that for those benefits. It could take up to 30 days. Um,
Uh,
that's that's in different states though.
uh,
Different states, they run differently, that which I found really interesting. Um, because in Texas, if you're homeless, you don't get your benefits immediately. Whereas in
uh,
California, if you're homeless, you do get your benefits immediately. Um,
uh,
so so I'm just kind of wondering, like, if you have any information about um, how do they determine who's going to get that card?
I'm not too sure, but I think it's kind of driven by the citizen. Like he has to prove whether it's through their tax records, whether it's through any documentation they have as far as employment goes,
Mm,
into what their family's income is or what their individual income is.
mm,
I'm sure it's cross-verified on the government level, but
got it.
I've never really heard anyone having a problem getting those cards. So I
Okay.
think, and there's never been a delay. And the other thing is like, as far as I would say, like in America, like I think you get a check or whatever you get from the government, and then or food stamps, and then like there's a delay. As far as the delay is concerned, it's always delay in like the government sending it out to you. But here it's more. Uh, they were smart and like they just reduced the prices in these fair price shops. So like so it's more
That's
like
awesome.
you're going to
Yeah.
the shop. So like there's
Yeah.
no delay in that. Like whatever
Right.
goods you need for you and your family, like you're going there getting it for almost nothing. And so you don't have to wait for your check to come in, you don't have to wait for your food stamps to come in. So like it's a little
That's
different
nice.
over here.
Yeah. It's a lot more around the human touch. Uh,
Yeah, yeah,
I always go to that
exactly.
because when you are in need, you need it now. You can't wait till the end of the month or the beginning of the month. Usually here in the States,
No.
it's the beginning of the month when they get their benefits. But by the end of the month, they're out of their benefits, and then they're going to food pantries,
Hmm.
trying to figure out who can assist them with food. Um,
Yeah.
Now, here, transportation is an issue for folks that don't have it. They have to walk to food pantries. There is transportation. Um, is that an issue there, or does everyone majority walk to get to the food places?
No, transportation is available. It's readily available. Public buses, and as far as you might see tuk-tuks and rickshaws, um, and like transportation isn't really a problem. And as far as I know, transportation costs are very low as well. Um, and the public buses, I believe, for those same people are also free. So like
Mm.
transportation is not really the problem here. People get to
Oh,
where they want to go.
yeah. Good.
Yeah.
Okay. Now,
Yeah.
healthcare. Do you have any information on healthcare? Like,
I do.
is healthcare
So as
free
far
or, yeah.
healthcare is free for those, again, those people who are who fall under that line of low income or impoverished. Healthcare is free for them. This includes medicines. This includes diagnostics. This includes doctor's appointments, surgeries. That is all free. Now the problem often that arises is that they're free in government institutes, but because there's so many people, there's often like an influx of people coming in for these resources, and so there can there's
Mm.
often like hours of waiting for these people to get to their doctor's appointments, to get to their surgeries, to access this thing. Um, so I wouldn't say like it's not really the government's fault over there. We just have such a vast population. But as far as from their perspective, they have given out free healthcare to anybody who falls under that line.
Okay. Okay. So just curious. Um, so your hospitals, do you think a lot of the members from the community that are in house, do they seek hospital for a typical minor uh, diagnosis, or do you think, or are they seeking clinics?
Um,
Like, I don't know if you've been to a hospital recently, and when you go in, I mean, you can tell sometimes who is in house versus who's not. So I'm just wondering.
so are you?
Um,
So you're saying like do people do those does that population go to clinics or big hospitals?
right. Or do they go to, like, here we have emergency room, maybe there you have urgent care,
Uh huh.
or maybe you have a different name, maybe it's called something different.
Mm-hmm.
But here in the States, we have emergency rooms, and typically, especially when it's cold outside, a lot of the members will come during that period, the winter times, because they want to stay warm. And if there's no room in the shelters, they'll seek shelter at the hospital.
Oh, no, I don't. So people in general, I don't really see government clinics. I see more of government hospitals over here. So and like in general, those same people they tend to, if it's anything minor or like I would say this in general about people who fall under
Yeah.
that line. They're just kind of tougher and made of tougher skin. So like they don't, unless it's something huge or something like worth going to the hospital and worth waiting in those lines for. They kind of toughen it out. So like I don't really see government clinics around. There's private clinics and private
Mm.
hospitals. But of course, if you fall under that line, you probably don't have the money to go and get that instant care. So, so they usually, if it's something big, if it's worth waiting the line for, they go to them. But apart from that, we do have like
Oh.
we do have the pharmacies and stuff that give out medicines, and those usually come with an in-house doctor. So if it's like something quick, if it's like a cold or something like something that like he can fix or he can recommend medicine to you, like they'll go to those clinics, get their diagnosis, and then get the medicine from there too. But like usually anything in between, it's kind of like, is it worth going to the hospital for this? Is it not for them?
Okay, good to know. Thank you.
Yeah.
And one last question about the hospital. When you go and visit the hospital, is there a certain location just for unhoused members versus members that are working class,
So in these government hospitals,
or is it just combined? Yeah.
so so anybody can kind of so the free healthcare is it kind of applies to everybody. Anybody who is willing to wait that line, whether you're rich or poor, can do it. But like what ends up happening is anybody with money doesn't go to these government hospitals. They go to private hospitals because like it's not worth it to them to wait for this. So like in general, all these government hospitals are often only filled with people who are impoverished or who are low income. Anybody with a mediocre income is going to a private clinic or a private hospital.
Wow, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you, Shivankar, for sharing that.
No problem.
Ollie's in the house.
Hey, Ollie.
Just want to welcome Ollie. Thank you, Ollie, for being here. This is such a fascinating conversation, and I'm like, oh, I really enjoy learning about what's happening in the world and India. I do have another question about like, I'm going to just use here again, here in the States. I often hear members that are not actually out there like me advocating, working with the public, helping our members get off the streets. I often hear people say, oh, they're just lazy, or they just don't want to get a job, or other things that happen. So they're how are working class families treating the community members? Are they helping, or like here we see a lot of people that will just pass them by and ignore them, or be rude. I mean, there's different scenarios. There's when we have the kind neighbors that want to help and be part of change, and so I know it's probably like that there, but I'm just wondering, like, I don't know. I'm just guessing. How is it? How is the working class treating the unhoused members?
I think in general, there's a collective conscience that like, because we know that these aren't, as far as in India's case, I would say, these aren't people who, just were alcoholics or drug abusers and they ended up on the streets. These are people who really don't have any access or resources and like are kind of, they're just, they weren't lucky enough to be born into any kind of money, and it's really through no fault of their own. Because over here, I would say like there's just a lack in many of these cases, even with the improving numbers. There was a lack of employment or a lack of resources, or you were born into just an area that didn't have anything around it, didn't have the infrastructure, didn't have the jobs, didn't have social groups reaching out, or there was this huge funneling into the metro cities, whether it's Delhi, Bangalore, Mumbai, and because it's a 1.4 billion population of a country, there's just not going to be enough jobs for everybody. And especially if you already come from a generation of poverty, you're not going to really see those opportunities as much as you're willing to. So like, I would say there's always a willingness of the poor people over here to grab at whatever opportunity, get whatever job they can, however low it is. Of course, there's always, I think it's a universal thing of like looking down upon poor people, but there's also like, I would say, especially with each generation that's coming up, just an inherent sense that like this is not really, it was a roll of the dice. It's not through any fault of their own. It was just, this is what it is, and whatever job that they're getting, they're trying to climb that ladder, get their family out of it. So there's not really I would say it improves with each generation, but like there's not as much of a looking down upon them or anybody, because it's not something, it's not like they, you know, fell from grace. It's that they were never
Mhm.
born into it. Um, so there is that innate sense that, you know, you are sympathetic towards these people.
Yeah, especially when you're seeing the grandmas and the grandpas with their great grandchildren
Yeah.
outside. Um, it's real. It really is happening, and um, it's nice to know that the government is doing something about it. To be
Hmm.
now at such a low percentage, um, I wonder if maybe in the near future they're going to also maybe build housing. I don't know if you have any information about that. I know here in
I
the
do
States,
actually.
housing is an issue.
Yeah, I do actually. So the government has kind of this thing in the abbreviation of the program. It's PMAY, and they've kind of branched it out into two sectors. They're rural and urban, and it's dedicated towards helping out these poorer populations build or get loans for housing. And like they kind of branched it out into these two things because like the atmosphere of the rural is very different from the urban. You know, you have different needs and stuff. So they say that their target is to provide about 27 million houses in the coming future. But until then, they also provide financial assistance as far as housing loans go, or if you're building your own house and you fall under the line of low income. Um, and yeah, so I mean, it's not. I wouldn't say it's the greatest amount in terms of dollars. It's about. I think it's about $1,400 in financial assistance. I'm not sure for how long of a period, and like whatever loans that you do get, like a home loan from any company, the government kind of gives you a subsidized rate. It gives you a lower rate of interest than the rest of the population. Um, so like there are, and I think the 27 million houses, they said that they want to get anybody who's in what we call a temporary house over here, which is like either made of mud or straw or whatever the mud huts you see or stuff, and give them actually structured houses with kitchens, with gas connections, with toilets, and all of that. And that's their goal in the near future. Um, but
And Shivankar, I mean, do they get to keep the house? It's their house. They're not renting. They're going to actually own the house.
yeah, they're gonna have like it's gonna be their house. Um,
Mm,
hopefully, like it all like
I hope
comes
it
full
goes through.
circle and we see that jump
Right.
in people who actually get a house. Um, but like even that, I guess I always wonder this like even in of governments of any country, like why don't you just build a bunch of like houses and shelters and just give the people out the house. But like I guess like economically it's more complicated than that. But I don't know. I always think that about like homeless people, like even in the states, like why doesn't the government at least like build like what you see now as the modern like smaller houses that are like uh,
Mhm. Tiny
that
homes.
whole small tiny house trend that like sometimes they're even just built out of tin. I always think like how hard would it be to just make a bunch of those and like just house the people into them.
Hmm.
uh, but I don't know, I guess it's got to be more complicated than that.
Yeah, there's measurements that have to be done.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that it has to be accepted by the city. But I know in Los Angeles, there was a gentleman that came across on YouTube who was building tiny homes on wheels. So
Mm-hmm.
the unhoused member is able to push his or her tiny home wherever, but the city would then come in and remove it. And so,
Oh, I saw. Yeah, I've seen similar stuff like that too. And like it ends up the impression is that the government really doesn't want to. They want to help, but they don't want to help, and like
Right.
it's
Yeah.
so strange. And even like
Yeah.
as far as like just like your welfare programs and all of those go, like they're not the
Mhm.
most pronounced and the most advertised, because you end up realizing that the government doesn't really want to give out such a big cut of their budget, and
Mhm.
they don't want it to all be completely utilized. So it's kind of like, if you can find these programs, then good for you, but we're not
Mhm.
going to advertise these straight up or make this the simplest process.
Right. I really enjoyed what you shared. I mean, this entire conversation I've enjoyed, but the big star is them owning their houses. Um,
Mm,
and here in the States is the rental portion is the big problem that people can't afford it.
yeah.
But what India is getting ready to do, building houses so the members can own these houses, and that's absolutely securing shelter. And then
Yeah.
we all know we all need shelter. Well, those of us who choose to want it, because there's some of us that we choose to live outside. And I say we because I'm speaking for many people that choose to live outside, that I know personally.
Mm.
But wow. So we do have Ali. He wanted to say hello to everybody. Hugs.
Sorry.
And then he said it's easy for them to point fingers as they are not in the arena trying to improve humanity. When people complain, they're not doing anything.
Mm.
No. Thank you, Ali. And he said, "Yay!" I'm not sure, but thank you, Ali.
That's just
You.
Ollie being Ollie.
Yeah, yeah. So, um, um, I'm also, um, wow. I am so impressed with what India is doing.
Oh, I did want to. So they also are doing something as far as employment goes.
Ooh.
So one of the schemes they have is they guarantee 100 days of guaranteed wages to rural households who fall under the low income line. So if you're in the rural area, you're not finding work, the government guarantees that they're going to find at least 100 days of work for you. Um,
Wow.
that
Was this
that's one of
is
the.
this is this new or is this already ongoing?
This is ongoing. So it started off in
Oh,
2006. So I think like that's definitely one of the things that probably contributed
that's
to the figures we
amazing.
saw in the decline
Yeah.
in poverty.
I really
Um,
am enjoying hearing that the government is empowering the people of India.
yeah, no. Even just doing research through all of this, like I knew some of these beforehand, but like because of I researched even more for this event, but like you kind of
Thank
realize
you.
that like it's not that the government doesn't want to help. It's just it's a huge problem to tackle, and like
Yeah, it is.
and for example, they also do these things called they have like these skill development camps in rural areas to help people with
Oh,
vocational training and job placements. They have financial assistance for anybody who has a small business or a self-supported business. Um, and during COVID, they did this thing where so anybody who was like employed and wanted to was under a social security program where it's kind of like a 401k where at the end you get some amount of money at the end of your employment. So the government was any amount of money that say you're working for a company, you're adding to this fund that you're going to get at the end, and the company you work for is required to match whatever you're adding
mm,
to this fund that you get at the end. The government was taking care of that percentage. So whatever you had to put into that fund, the government was taking care of, and whatever the company had to put in that fund, the government was taking care of. And this was done so that to encourage all these companies to not fire their employees. So if you were part of this system, the government was taking care of that little social security part of it, and like it opened up these companies to not fire people who were probably going to have a hard time if they didn't have a job, and also just open up funding for these companies to hire even more people and kind of absorb that whole COVID backlash that you saw.
Yeah.
Stuff
Wow.
like that.
Yeah. Well, all of that is really working for the people. It's not we're
Definitely.
working for the government.
No, definitely.
Good.
The government would do better with that money, but like they decided to kind of pour it out and
That's
just
so nice.
kind of do what they can.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So so Shivankar, like what do you see in your community that you live in? What have you witnessed? Like do you see
As,
members
as far
outside in your community?
in my community, mm, not in I wouldn't say like immediately in the area around me, but like it's never far away. Like you're never far away from lower income people or anyone here in India, especially. Um, and like especially like a lot of the house help that comes here, people find it I would say kind of bougie in America, but like over here, almost every household has a maid that comes in, cleans your house or does your dishes. You can hire
Wow.
cooks, and these are so all these people who are coming into, uh, these houses and stuff. They are lower income people, but because we have like so many people, we have the ability to have these services, and it's not you don't have to be like super rich like you would imagine in America to have maids and
Yeah.
cooks and cleaners and stuff. It's pretty much if you're middle income, you have these things. Um, so I could just name for like the kind of the strata that I belong to. You have maids, you have people cleaning your houses, you have people cooking for you if you choose, you have people washing your car if you choose, you have people washing your clothes if you choose. You have people ironing your clothes if you choose. So it is kind of because there's such a need of employment. You have all these services available to you.
Wow. Yeah, ready to go.
Ready to go.
Mhm. And do the members hang out like outside the folks' homes, or are they hanging out in the city? Where do
Yeah,
you
kind of. Yeah, so it depends. Like, there's definitely areas that are areas where it's more affordable housing, um, and then areas that is less affordable housing, like is for people who are higher incomes. But it's not really. There's no like line that like this side of town is this side of town. It's kind of like
okay.
it's kind
Yeah,
of
it's mixed.
interspace. Yeah, it's kind of
Very
mixed.
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, so you
Okay.
could be driving and like within the mile you'll see like really nice houses, you'll see middle income houses, then you'll see lower income houses, you might see mud huts. So it's not really, there's not
Yeah.
as clear of a nice part of town as you might
And
see
the
in the
members
States.
are just in all mixed in there in each of those areas.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So here we do have there is a divide where the members can only go to certain places or be in certain places until they're eventually pushed to go into the woods, where they are now having encampments because they're being pushed away from the city. Or there's only one location, depending on what city you're going to, where you'll see a whole strip of members outside. And typically these locations are
Oh,
very run down.
no, I would say that like if as far as like the low income or like what we would say slums or mud huts or all of that, like definitely there are like areas that are only mud huts and slums. Those are usually not sprawled like mixed in with like
Oh,
permanent. Just because like I don't even think it's really a divide thing. I think it's more like there isn't any space to do that when you have like permanent buildings or permanent
yeah.
housing complexes. Um, and so there are areas that are like just mud huts and stuff.
Hmm.
But they're not, I would say they're not as far off from like uh, the areas that have like the nicer houses as like it might be in the States.
Oh, yeah. Got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, here there's a lot of city meetings that happen, and the people will say no, they're not welcome here. Yeah, please remove
Mhm.
them from being near my home or whatever location they're
Yeah.
located, or business, because I know that was a big one too, where
Oh, yeah.
members in Los Angeles and San Francisco, just mentioning those big cities, where members would park create their homes right outside businesses. And there's a reason why they do that. They want to be in the city, they want to be seen. Whereas if you move them away from the city, there's more crimes that happen behind the woods, or in
Hmm.
those
Hmm.
encampments. It's not always safe. So that's why we see members here sleeping outside in front of buildings because it's safe.
Yeah, yeah, no. Um, I did, and also like I saw something where like often like your public benches, like they put dividers in the benches so that no homeless people can sleep on them, and to kind of push away
Yeah.
homelessness even further. Um, yeah, no, it's
Yeah.
pretty,
Yeah.
it's pretty brutal if anyone's experienced that or is in those shoes. Like it seems kind of dehumanizing. Um, so yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's just it's discouraging to see something like that.
It is. It really is. Um, it really is. It really is.
Mhm.
Now, what about the crime? How's the crime there? If you know of any crime, um, when it comes to members.
As far as I don't know, crime in India is, I would say, it's more petty crime than big crime. Like there's not really there's no fear of you going out and getting mugged as much over here. And there's also a sense of kind of societal justice. So like if someone mugs you or someone snatches something, someone like steals something from you or something, and like most areas of India are pretty crowded, so you just have to kind of yell out and be like, "Hey, that guy stole my wallet" or whatever. And then like usually the crowd will like try to catch the guy, and like there's kind of
Wow, that's
a more
amazing.
communal sense of thing.
Yes.
It's even worse if it's like someone's like done something to a woman and like
Mm,
or like touched someone inappropriately or thingy. You really don't want to be in those shoes because like that usually calls for a beating from the local crowd. Um, so like oftentimes, uh, usually, and also there's not really as much a prevalence of guns over here, so there's not really gun violence like you see in the States. So I would say like crimes are at a more, it's more petty crimes like here and there.
yeah.
Um,
I
but
I really
in
enjoyed that the
general,
people stand up for,
oh
they will
yeah,
stand up for you. That is so
oh yeah.
amazing. Here,
I mean,
people will
anytime
watch,
I've seen something,
record.
no, anytime I've seen something, it's usually like the people are the first line of justice, and then like the police arrives like maybe 15, 20 minutes later. But or it doesn't even get to that. Like they, I've also seen times where like it's a young kid or something, and like he pickpocketed someone. He got his little beating from the crowd, and the crowd was like, okay, he's had enough, and then it doesn't even reach to like the police or whatever. It's just sort of a communal justice thing.
Wow, that's amazing. Okay, got it.
Mm,
So
yeah.
you all look out after each other. That's absolutely
Yeah,
phenomenal.
definitely.
Yeah, thank you,
And I would
Shivankar.
say I also like I said, like my girlfriend and stuff, like she says that it feels somewhat safer over here because like there's no like there I even when I was in the States, like there are bad areas in the States where you don't really want to go
Mhm,
because of
mhm.
fear of muggings or you would get robbed or shot or whatever it is. And like over here it's not like that necessarily because like there's so much there's a more communal sense that like if you just there's more people first of all, and there's more of a communal sense that like if something does go wrong you kind of
Right.
just have to scream out and then a crowd will gather, and like anybody who's doing a crime doesn't want to be on the opposite end of that.
Yeah, that's amazing. So the screams are heard, and that's so valuable for especially
Definitely.
the members outside. That if they
Oh yeah,
scream,
definitely.
they will get help. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Wow. So, Shivankar, you know what I realize?
What?
I do want to apologize to anyone that's listening that maybe joined at 11:30. I believe I posted it for 11:30, but we started at 11 because we were so excited.
Oh, did we?
So please
Oh,
excuse me for that. um, but no, I'm learning a lot. Now I have heard another perspective as well, and particularly in Mumbai, where we have there's a name that they call unhoused members. The name is beggars,
mhm.
and I guess everyone can use different verbiage, but in this particular scenario, the word beggar was used, where there are unhoused members are outside asking for money, and then some of the members are actually well off. Um, so, what are your thoughts around that? Because like anywhere else, we also have that here where we have people asking for money and they're actually doing pretty good. Um, what are your thoughts, Shivankar?
um I don't know, like as far as I mean, I see people asking for money around here too, or anywhere you go. Not as much as I used to be honest with you, but there are still some people who ask for money or whatever. My whole thing is, if you are doing that, it's one thing to do that if you're able-bodied, like that you should rather be trying to find some kind of work or something. Um, but if you're doing that out of like you just have no other choices or anything, then that's something separate. But like as
Yeah.
far as I see, like even those the people who are asking for money, um, I don't really see them getting as much uh, money from people as you possibly could by doing something small or some kind of work.
Mhm.
So like I don't know if anybody is wealthy or is somewhat has money doing that.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
then it's kind of like you would make more doing a job anyway. Like you can't possibly make a lot um, begging for money because like anybody who gives money isn't giving a vast sum at a time. Like they're gonna give
Mhm.
like the equivalent of $1 in the States at any given time, or uh, even less than that. So like I don't know if like there's some people who are making money off of begging for money, then like, I guess good for them. But like you would
Right.
make more at a job, honestly.
Yeah, 100% agree with you. I know when I was in Texas, we had uh, the name that was placed was gypsies, and they
Uh-huh.
would be with signs and pictures of children with different diagnoses that they need donations, and then they
Oh yeah.
found that was untrue stories that were being shared through those posters they were creating. And it's unfortunate because it does happen, and it's just unfortunate.
Oh no, yeah. And there's uglier parts of that, of course, even here, where
Yeah.
you have these groups who are really who are kind of exploited and sent out to beg for money and then come back to whatever the larger organization is and like give them all their money that they beg for in return for food and shelter. Um, so like there is that darker side of it, but like I think that's reduced significantly in the last few
Oh
decades,
yeah,
last few years. So
definitely. Ugh,
I,
we need
yeah.
something like that here. we we need to reduce um, our in-house population, specifically in the state of California, which is has
Uh,
currently the highest population in the
oh, is
U.S.
that right?
and following New York.
Okay.
I haven't looked up the statistics recently, but when I started ConnectImpact Hub last year, yeah, we were looking at those numbers, and yeah, and particularly here I'm in Northern California. Um, just from my observations, like Los Angeles is hot zone.
Uh,
San Francisco, hot zone. Then we
mhm.
have like San Jose, hot zones. So there's zones that are like hot areas for unhoused members. In Houston, we had the downtown area, um, and then which was a hot zone. And typically, what's happening is they're mostly either they're creating their encampments or they're surrounded by where the day shelters are located because they have food, they have a place to wash up, and that's important. Um, but they're only available during the daytime, and then at night, um, it's the members, and then of course there's police around. Um, but yeah, it's interesting just to be observing and then just listening your input, like what you've learned, what you're teaching us, more like about what's going on
Mhm.
in India, and it's just I'm sure there's more, but just listening, it sounds really positive,
It
and we need more of that for all of us
yeah.
because anyone can really fall down and become unhoused. It could happen to any of us.
Mhm.
So to have the support from the government to be able to actually help you um, is amazing. But like here, shelter is still a problem as well. So hopefully in the future, there will be more shelters here where we can house all the folks that want to be housed and yeah, get them back on their feet.
I will also say this in terms of India, like it's really in these metro cities that are these big hubs of population that you see this more prevalent, where you have unhoused people, because there's such a high density of people and we all going for like the same, I would say, like the same areas to live in. This like what we would call our big metro cities, Delhi, Mumbai, Bangalore, Hyderabad, a bunch of these. But if you go more outside, rural, where you have everyone in India kind of comes from an ancestral village, um, and you see less of that problem there. And you see more of a sense of community if you go out to these countrysides, as we would call it, and like it's only in the cities that uh, like you need a certain amount of money to uphold the lifestyle for all the expenses that come with living in a city. So like that gap, even there's a wider gap between what you need and what you have. But like if you go towards the countrysides and you go towards like the village areas, uh, they're often, there's not as much a need for money because they often have their own agriculture. They often have enough area to like make enough houses for the local population. There isn't as extravagant a living, so there aren't products that you need to have or like a salary that you need to maintain or any of that. So like it's just that like everybody over time as the population grew, um, all gravitated towards these hubs of cities, and like there's a limited amount of resources, a limited amount of jobs, so you end up with these, the poor become poorer, as they say.
Hmm. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Wow. Well, we're getting close to time, Shivankar. What a conversation. I want to have another episode to touch on other areas that I will talk all day, all night. But it's so wonderful to be able to get this knowledge. And I hope everyone that's here with us, listening now or team replay, please leave comments. I'll fix the YouTube thing. Thank you, Crystal, again for letting me know that the comments are not activated. I need to figure that out. Um, and then also here on LinkedIn, please feel free to send us any messages through this live or replay, or directly to Shivankar or me if you have any questions or if you just want to connect with us. Shivankar, would you like to share anything about what you have maybe coming up next, or anything about yourself, your pugs? I don't know.
Before we do wrap up, I would feel remiss if I didn't touch on a couple more points. If we do have this.
Yes, Shivankar, please.
Okay.
We're good. Go for it, please.
All right. Just one. Now we talked about like poverty throughout this, but like it's kind of, it lends the question of like how did India get in this position in the first place? Like why is there such a high level of poverty, or there was a high level of poverty? And it's a multifaceted thing, but something interesting, and I would say is the biggest leader, is like India was a former British colony, and we were ruled by the British for more than 200 years. But before the British came, so the British, they came and they kind of began their rule in 1757, and India gained its independence from the British in 1947. So it's only been like a little over 75 years of an independent India from British rule. Now, if you compare that to like the US that got its independence in 1776, like they've had more of a time to industrialize, more of a time to be an independent nation and kind of call the shots on their own. We have like kind of a shorter history in terms of being independent as a country. And a few figures that are really interesting is when the British first came. Now, a country's wealth is often measured by GDP, gross domestic product. So when the British first came to India, India's GDP accounted for 27% of the world's GDP, of the entire world. And it was estimated that India was probably the richest country at that time in 1757 in terms of the product that it was dispensing. So we own 27% of the world's GDP at that time. And when the British left in 1947, that figure had gone down to 4%. So there was a lot of drain of resources and stuff because of colonial rule. Um, and and in the last 100 years, from 1925 to 2025, India's population grew from 250 million to 1.4 billion. So mix that in with just being a new country, being kind of zapped of resources from the British, where our GDP was decreased from 27% to 4%. We were deindustrialized, and you kind of get to see that like where it was it was kind of bound to be that the country would be left with a lot of poor people, because like there was a lot of zapping of resources. Most of the goods that were made in India during British rule were then brought back to England and then resold as English products, often back to India again. And most of the local industries were not really, they were destroyed, and they were kind of tailored to become more of a cash cow for the British as opposed to what practically worked for the Indians. Most of our agriculture, the farmers were forced to grow crops that would be more, that would sell in international markets instead of growing what they needed. This caused famine. Over 85 million people died of famine during British rule in India, just during that whole time period. And that's because like it was all tailored towards colonialism. So not to say like not to say anything, but like it is interesting that like those are probably some of the factors that would lead to a country not not being able to take care of all of its people, because like we were under foreign rule for like until 78 years ago. So it's kind of been a short history for us to get back on our feet, but that's one of the major factors. But also, I had this little area of like positives on the upside, as far as the Indian population goes. And so like even, so I've been to the US twice. Once when I was a kid, I was in San Francisco. Then as a kind of older, I went to DC. And like just the difference between those two time periods, often when I went to San Francisco as a kid, most of the Indian people, and it was kind of a stereotype that like they were often the taxi drivers or the cab drivers in New York or in all these metro areas.
Yeah.
The second time around, like they became like the go-to doctors, and like even if you worked in hospitals, a lot of the doctors are often Indian.
Yeah.
A lot of the engineers are often computer engineers are often Indian that you come across. So like there is like some kind of uptake. I also read that like the Indian Americans are one of the highest earning immigrant populations in the States. So you do see these connotations of like an uptake and like improvement as far as like just wealth and like the status of like people and their income. That like it's all been like kind of upwards. And also a number of the companies that we know around in the world, they're run by Indians. A lot, some prominent companies. For example, Microsoft, Google, IBM, Chanel, Adobe, MasterCard, Pepsi, Starbucks, all of these have Indian CEOs running them. So you do see kind of a bigger, like a leap happening and a change happening. And India is currently the fourth largest economy in the world. And our current, as far as a social factor goes, we've had no problem electing female members towards our political positions. We've had an Indian female prime minister. and she was considered one of the strongest and most bold prime ministers. Our current president is female. A lot of the members of our houses are female. We have a lot of units in the armies that are only female. A lot of our army chiefs are female. Um, so these are just some positives that we're seeing, and like you do see kind of a wholesome intention of improvement as far as like the status of these social groups go. So just wanted to share.
That's so wonderful. I love that, Shivankar, because I had no idea that that women are really running some wonderful movements in India.
Yeah, no.
And you're witnessing that progress. And now I want to go and research the 28%, that you have, because that is huge.
Yeah.
Clearly, they are doing something right within the government portion of it and the way it's coming out to the community. So that is absolutely phenomenal to hear, and to be a female, but just empowering too to hear. Thank you so much for sharing that, Shivankar.
Yeah.
I do want to share also a couple more comments from a couple of our guests that just had to. Jane said, "We have to scoot. Appreciate the conversation. Wishing everyone a wickedly wonderful weekend." And then, oops, I went too fast. Now, okay. Ali said, "Hugs, gotta dash. This is dash hounding session. Woohoo! Thank you."
Thanks, Ollie.
And thank you for sharing too about the history of India as well, regarding the British being there for so long. And now just learning that aspect of it, understanding more of the poverty, the reason there was such a high number of poverty.
Yeah.
Completely understand now.
Yeah, no, it
Wow.
just it felt
Well,
it was just a major, like, it's one of the causes of poverty. It's not the only cause of it. Obviously, there's another things, but like you kind of get a feel of like, okay, so like we were, what could be one of the major causes of it. It was, the colonialism of the time. Not to blame it today, but like it's just you need to see why a country is in the position that it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Change is going to is on YouTube, LinkedIn, and Instagram. So if, again, also on LinkedIn, you can connect with me there, and I'll be happy to assist with questions or anything you need support in. And Shivankar, please let everyone know how they can connect with you.
Connecting with me primarily through LinkedIn. My social medias, as far as my Instagram and stuff goes, I'm not really too much on it anymore. But like, I am somewhat active on LinkedIn, looking out for people to connect with, people to make a difference with as a team, just to make our communities better, the world better, as far as like I said, nature goes, people go, animals go. I really try to stay positive, try to absorb positive energy and positive people. So yeah, connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm open, and thank you so much, Martha, for having me. I really enjoyed this conversation with you. I was super nervous about it all day, but I loved it. It was such a great conversation.
Aww. It really was, and I've learned a lot, and there's a lot of takes that I'm taking with me, and I am running with them. So thank you so much, Shivankar, for taking the time to meet with us all, and see you all later.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye,